Sound of air raid siren fading in, then under narration, imagine this. It's 3 a.m. in Vilnius, Lithuania. The city sleeps, unaware. Then, the piercing wail of air raid sirens shatters the silence. Not a drill. This is the nightmare scenario. The spark that ignites a global conflict. The Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia have always been strategically vulnerable. But there's one place, one choke point, that makes military planners lose sleep: the Suwalki Gap. Visuals. Animated map zooming into the Suwalki Gap. This narrow, 60-mile strip of land connects Belarus, a close ally of Russia, with Kaliningrad, a Russian exclave nestled between Poland and Lithuania. Think of Kaliningrad as Russia's unsinkable aircraft carrier in the heart of Europe. It's heavily militarized, packed with advanced weaponry. Control the Suwalki Gap, and you effectively sever the Baltic states from the rest of NATO. They become islands, isolated and desperately vulnerable. Capturing the Suwalki Gap would be a swift, devastating blow. It would allow Russia to resupply Kaliningrad, reinforce its forces, and present NATO with a fait accompli. The question is this a far-fetched fantasy cooked up in war games, or a looming, terrifying geopolitical threat? Consider this. Russia has a history of rewriting borders. Visuals. Archival footage of Russian military interventions. Look at Georgia in 2008. The invasion was swift, brutal, and decisive. Or Ukraine in 2014, with the annexation of Crimea and the ongoing conflict in the Donbass region. Russia didn't just use tanks and troops. They pioneered a new kind of warfare: hybrid warfare. Hybrid warfare is a cocktail of cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, economic pressure, and the deployment of deniable assets, those infamous little green men, soldiers without insignia, whose origins are initially obscured. Visuals. Examples of Russian disinformation campaigns. Manipulated images, fake news headlines. Imagine a scenario where cyber attacks cripple Estonia's banking system. Latvia's power grid goes down. Lithuania's government websites are defaced with pro-Russian propaganda. Then, masked men, claiming to be local self-defense forces, begin seizing government buildings in eastern Estonia, home to a significant Russian-speaking minority. These are the opening moves, the prelude to a much larger operation. Russia has invested heavily in spreading disinformation within the Baltic states. They exploit existing social divisions, amplify grievances, and sow distrust in NATO and the EU. One particularly insidious tactic is to rewrite history, portraying the Soviet era as a time of prosperity and stability, and downplaying the horrors of Soviet occupation. These narratives find fertile ground among some segments of the population, creating vulnerabilities that Russia can exploit. Visuals. Graphics showing NATO troop deployments in the Baltics. NATO is aware of the threat. In response, they've established the Enhanced Forward Presence, or EFP, in the Baltics and Poland. These are multinational battle groups, stationed on a rotational basis, acting as a tripwire force. The idea is simple. Any attack on the Baltics would trigger an immediate response, drawing in other NATO members and invoking Article 5, the Collective Defense Clause. But the EFP is not a massive army. It's a relatively small force, designed to buy time, not to repel a full-scale Russian invasion on its own. The real question is, can NATO react quickly enough? Bureaucratic delays, differing national interests, and the sheer speed of a potential Russian attack all pose significant challenges. Consider the logistical hurdles. Moving large numbers of troops and equipment across Europe takes time. Roads and railways need to be secured. Fuel and supplies need to be delivered. All of this is vulnerable to disruption, sabotage, and cyber attacks. And what if some NATO members are hesitant to commit troops, fearing escalation or economic repercussions? The alliance is only as strong as its weakest link. Some analysts argue that NATO's response plans are outdated, relying on Cold War-era thinking that doesn't account for the speed and sophistication of modern Russian military capabilities. They point to Russia's rapid military modernization program, its investment in electronic warfare and precision-guided missiles, and its demonstrated ability to conduct complex, multi-domain operations. All of these factors could give Russia a decisive advantage in the opening hours of a conflict. Visuals. Animated map showing potential Russian axes of attack. So, what happens in the crucial first hours of an invasion? The answer may surprise you. Stay tuned. The invasion doesn't begin with tanks rolling across borders. It starts in the shadows, unseen. H-hour, cyberblitz and information warfare. Imagine a digital tsunami crashing over Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Power grids flicker and die. Hospitals plunge into darkness. Communication networks become tangled webs of disruption. It's not just about inconvenience, it's about paralysis. Think of Estonia, a nation that prides itself on its digital infrastructure. Now, that strength becomes a vulnerability. Imagine government websites defaced with pro-Russian propaganda, sowing seeds of doubt and fear. Banks freeze. Emergency services struggle to coordinate. This isn't just hacking, it's a meticulously planned assault on the very foundations of society. One tactic they might use involves flooding social media with AI-generated videos of panicked citizens and false reports of government collapse, aiming to trigger mass hysteria. 6 hours later, H+6, the spearhead through Suwałki. The ground war commences. Forget a broad front, the Russians focus on key arteries. Armored columns thunder south from Kaliningrad and west from Belarus. Their target? The Suwałki Gap. This isn't just about territory, it's about severing the Baltics from the rest of NATO. The terrain here is unforgiving, a mix of forests, swamps, and narrow roads, perfect for ambushes, but also a death trap if you're caught in the open. Russian airborne troops, the WW3, spearhead the attack, seizing key bridges and communication hubs before NATO can react. Imagine Spetsnaz teams infiltrating under the cover of darkness, disabling radar installations and cutting supply lines. The defenders are outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that knows the terrain intimately. NATO forces scramble, but the clock is ticking. The Russians have been preparing for this for years, stockpiling equipment and rehearsing maneuvers. By H+12, the situation deteriorates rapidly. Civilian resistance and refugee crisis. The Baltic spirit is strong, but can it withstand the onslaught? Imagine Lithuanian farmers using tractors to block roads, slowing the Russian advance. Latvian students organizing online to counter disinformation. Estonian veterans dusting off their old rifles, ready to defend their homes. But these acts of bravery are met with brutal force. As cities fall, a human tidal wave surges westward. Families pack what they can carry and flee towards Poland and Germany. Border crossings become bottlenecks of desperation. Makeshift refugee camps spring up, overwhelmed by the sheer number of people seeking safety. The world watches as images of suffering flood the news. Neighboring countries struggle to cope, stretching resources to the breaking point. Old ethnic tensions resurface, exploited by Russian agents to further destabilize the region. How will the world react in the face of this aggression? The answer is more complex than you think. The invasion of the Baltics wouldn't just be a regional conflict. It would be a global earthquake. Article 5 of the NATO treaty would face its ultimate test. An attack on one is an attack on all. But would all members agree? Picture tense emergency sessions at NATO headquarters. Some nations, heavily reliant on Russian energy, might hesitate. Others, remembering past appeasement, would demand immediate action. The Baltics are more than just dots on a map. They are the keystone of NATO's eastern flank. A failure to defend them shatters the alliance's credibility, emboldening aggressors worldwide. Beyond the military, the economic fallout would be catastrophic. Imagine global markets plummeting as investors flee to safety. Supply chains, already strained, would snap. Energy prices would skyrocket, plunging nations into recession. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? This could be exponentially worse. The interconnected global economy means a war in the Baltics would send shockwaves to every corner of the world. But here's the chilling question. Could a conventional war escalate into a nuclear one? Retention hook. The threat looms large. Nuclear deterrence is a delicate dance. A miscalculation, a panicked decision, could unleash unthinkable devastation. De-escalation would be paramount, but in the fog of war, clear thinking is a rare commodity. The world would be teetering on the brink. So, what lessons can we learn from this hypothetical, yet terrifying, scenario? We must bolster NATO's defenses, particularly in the Baltic region. Countering Russian disinformation is crucial to maintaining public support for the alliance. And, most importantly, we must pursue every avenue for dialogue and diplomacy. The cost of inaction is simply too high. The future is not predetermined. By understanding the risks and taking proactive steps, we can prevent this nightmare from becoming reality. What do you think? Could this happen? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of global security issues.